power chairs are pushed all the way back and low to the ground. And as you saw, the trick here was don't go for the passenger side, because this is curved, well, not curved, but this is lined out towards the passenger side, so you have less clearance on the passenger side. Go for the driver's side, pull it out, angle it out, and then slowly turn it to become vertically and pull it out like what you saw. And that's the trick. Alright folks, with the doghouse off, you can now have access to your other ends of the spark plug, your cap, and the rotor inside. You also have access to other things you might need to fix in the vehicle, such as your EGR valve, ignition coils, or secondary ignition. For me, I might be looking into my TPMS because I was getting some weird throttle response lately. Now, for this job, I'll be using NGK products, the spark wires, and the spark plug. It's worthwhile to note that it's usually a good idea to stick to OEM parts, AC Delco. And the reason being is because quite some years ago, I had changed to NGK products. Now, I think it's because I didn't use the platinum version. I used the one starting with the I. I don't have it in front of me, so I don't remember how it's spelt or how to pronounce it, but I think it's like Irradium, but then that sounds like I'm saying something nuclear instead. So you want to use the platinum stuff, and that's what I have this time around, platinum. What happened was, after putting it in, about a month later, the vehicle was giving this really crazy noise that sounded like I threw a rod, but I obviously didn't, since the performance was still there. But it was a terrible sound, and it was like knocking and everything. And what I did was, you know, I thought, well, there really shouldn't be anything problem. I still have full compression, my oil is good. So I changed all the NGK wires and plugs out back to AC Delco Platinums, and it was perfectly fine. So that's just a little word of caution. The other thing too is, if your wires did not come with dielectric grease, do yourself a favor and pick up a tube. It's really cheap, and the reason for that is because in the future, let's say you're running rich or lean, or for whatever reason you need to change the spark plug, because usually the wires will outlast the spark plugs, and spark plugs are very cheap too. What you want to do is you want to dabble a little bit onto here, which is where the boot goes on, because if you don't, what happens is when you remove that boot from the wire, over time all that heat and basically, what's going to happen is when you pull off the boot, you could end up ripping the inside of the boot because it's snug on, and now you have to repair the spark plug wire. It's not the end of the day, it's pretty easy to do, but just a little dabble will prevent all that as a problem. The other thing too is, if you're watching this video, for whatever reason you're not working on the same type of car or motor, if you have aluminum block, you want to put a little bit of anti-seize compound on here so that it doesn't get stuck. Whenever you have two different metals, and again, it's all about heat, that's how it's going to seize on, and if you're not careful, you might warp some of the threads inside the block. And I don't think I need to tell you the obvious expensive repairs to that. Alrighty? So, distributor and cap, we're going to talk about it in just a few seconds, but I want to show you this. If it's your first time doing a tune-up, it's not really rocket science, and that's why you're probably watching this video, to save yourself some money. It's not too hard at all, and I've already penciled this out. There's a lot of different ways to figure this out normally, and I'll point that out in a bit. The front of the grill, meaning outside the car, if you're looking this way in, and this is inside the car, like where we are right now. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is, let me move the camera back up. Hey. According to this, what I'm telling you is that all the odds are on the driver's side, odds of the cylinder, all the evens are on the passenger side. Best way to remind that is if you have a family and you guys want to go out for lunch after Sunday church or something like that. Driver is always at odds. You got to ask all your passengers, where are we going to eat, and that's where you're going to go. So, driver's side is odd. Starting at the very front by the grill, you have cylinder 1, 3, 5. On the passenger side, starting at the front, you have cylinder 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6. Alright, so on the left hand side, you have 5, 1, and 3. On the right hand side, you have 2, 4, 6. Alright, just like what we have drawn here. So, you basically match your spark plug wires. 1 to 1, 3 to 3, 5 to 5, right? 6 to 6, 4 to 4, 2 to 2. So as you notice on the passenger side, the even side, it pretty much aligns. On the driver's side, you have the 1 and the 3 that is reversed, all right? Or I shouldn't say reversed, swapped. Now, again, I just showed you on the cap, nice and easy to remember. Next thing you're going to ask is, oh crap, what if I get my wires crossed up? Well, you can't really quite do that nowadays. And the reason why is because the foolproof way is, you know, reaching cylinder 1 is probably going to be one of your longest wires needed because of the location. When you pull out your wire, you can just match up the length to your new one. So do one at a time. The other thing is, I just showed you exactly where everything is cylinder wise and cap wise. Well, guess what? All these new wires, they come labeled already. There's a 6, there's your 5, here's your 1, as I mentioned, your longest one, 3, 2, and 4. Here you go. Looks better on the 4 here. And of course your common. So it's actually really easy to do with that little diagram, which you can pause the video on. You'll know exactly where to put these wires, and again, the wires are all labeled. Alright, so last but not least, I wanted to show you guys a little bit more in depth of the cap and rotor, because I changed mine about 6 months ago. So these are the old ones, and what was happening was at cruising speed in the city around 55 to 65 kms, I was getting weird stuttering, hesitation, like little burbles. So I also wasn't getting very good mileage. And this is the rotor. It really doesn't look too terrible, right? And yet, I'm going to tell you, once I changed this to newer stuff, all that hesitation and burbling disappeared, and I ended up getting really good mileage. I'm going to zoom in on here. The corrosion is not too terrible at all. And now I'm going to show you the new ones. Okay, so here's the new one. And completely clean. There's no corrosion or anything. Alright, and the rotor. So I'm showing you this because whenever you do a spark wire and plug tune-up, you should always change this cap and rotor. It's really cheap. It's like $55 to $70. You do it all as a set so that you know everything is firing together and all your good electronic juice is turning out really good. I'm sharing because last time that's all I changed and the vehicle was running perfectly fine. I was hoping I wouldn't have to do my spark plug and wire, but I think it's time to do it because now I'm getting really bad performance when I'm like towing or hauling. So I have a feeling it's because it's time to do the wires and the plugs and I didn't do it. So depending on how the cap and rotor looks right now, I'll know how much stress was coming through there for the electrical power, basically, to send sparks through the wire to the plug to ignite the cylinder. Because if I'm going to compare it to this guy and it looks about the same, this guy being my previous last one that lasted about 2 years, if it looks about the same, then it means I've been putting on some really heavy load going through there. If it's a little bit cleaner, I might just leave it be. Since I have the new cap and rotor, I could just put it back in, but taking off the doghouse isn't much of a challenge for me because I've done it so many times. If you feel like you had to fight with it, you know, again, it was cheap. Just do the change. Alright, so this is the passenger side through the wheel well. And there's your 3 spark plugs. Alright. 1, 2, 3. Alright. And then from the driver's side, here you go, you have 1, let me just zoom in, 1, and then 2 and 3, so kind of the opposite from the other side. So yeah, it's probably better for you to take off the tire. I mean, you don't have to, you can reach on in there, but if you have time, take off the tire so you don't have to bump the tire too much. The other thing to note is that I have a lift kit on my vehicle, which means I got this extra, what is that, I forgot already. Yeah, that should be 2 inches. I have 2 inches that really opens it up so I can really get my hand in there. If you're thinking about lifting up the truck is, yeah, I'm going to tell you, do it. Because it's nice and simple, and it makes your tune-up job a lot easier. Oh yeah, you got all these little clips. Basically, you can stick a little flathead in there and then twist and it'll pop out. There's the hinge. Here it is, and as you see, there's this little notch that goes in there, and that's what I meant by putting in the flathead in on the top and just poking it out or twisting it out. So taking it out, you're gonna have to use the wrench because it's kind of stuck in there a little bit. The other thing I wanted to let you know is when you put in the new one, don't use the ratchet, just use your hand. That way you can make sure you can feel if you're threading it correctly. Last thing you want to do is kill your block threads. That would be a big oops. Alright? Another suggestion I have is try to keep your spark plugs labeled so you know which cylinder it came out from. That way you can inspect it to find out what might be wrong per cylinder. I got quite a bit of oil on mine, but I kind of know that I'm leaking oil and I'm going to have to take a look into that. I was expecting to see this a little bit more, how to say, I think whitish, because I know I'm burning rich, so camcorder is not showing it. Anyways, I'll do another separate video on that maybe. There's torque specs on this and I forgot what it is, which is bad. I'll see if I can find it. Otherwise, honestly, I think I usually just turn it in by hand and maybe give it like a quarter of a turn. Alright folks, I'm going to show you why it's always good to think over what you need to do before you start. There's cylinder 2, 4, and 6. And as you can see 6, you can see it's inside like a metal enclosure. And the reason why I'm showing you that is, here's the old number 4 that we just took out. And here's the plug-in, which makes sense because 2 and 4 were next to each other. And there it is right there. So that type of boot makes sense. Number 6, you can see it makes sense to have a straight on boot. Well, the new NGK wires, here is 6 and 4, and if you follow it, 6 is giving me a 90-degree angle and 4 is a straight. So I think someone mislabeled it. At the end of the day, you can test for resistance, or the other thing is you can just make sure that your old wire with your new wire lines up in length as well, because the length affects resistance as well. So I'm going to go ahead and swap in the new 6 for the 4 because it makes sense, because there's no way in heck am I going to be putting in a right angle into that really tight space of where the 6 goes in, because I might be able to put it in, but I'm not going to be able to take it out in the future. Alright, so we're on the driver's side, and when I was doing the video earlier, I knew this was going to be a pain, and I couldn't remember why. Now I remember why. First of all, getting the boot off, that literally took me about a good 20 minutes to pull it off. I don't have, or rather I cannot find my spark plug puller. If you have one, I'm pretty sure it'll come off a lot easier. Once you have it off, for me, my brake lines are in the way. Yeah, they look a little rusty. We'll have to take care of that in the future. So you're going to have to use a flex head, or if you have a flex tube, it'll help you get to spark plug to pull it out. And that's where the majority of my time went, because literally on the passenger side, it was a matter of just taking off the old boot, putting the heat shield back on, you know, do the new wire, pull out the plug, put in the new wire, put some anti-seize onto the spark plug, and then the dielectric grease, and plug it back in, reroute it, and make it look good. This is the number 3 wire, and the older wire is a little bit longer than the newer one, so just keeping that as my own history. Alright, all the new spark plug wires and sparks are in. We took off the old rotor. I'm going to put on a new rotor. Looks very new. And I'm going to put on a new cap as well. Alright, here's the new cap and rotor inside installed. New wires, new plugs. When you put it in the wire, best is that you hold on to it on the end here where you can feel that nice pinch and twist as you go in so it can get in nice and snug. Just a reminder, whenever you put your plugs into the spark plugs, make sure you feel and hear that click. If for whatever reason it's not going on nice and snug, just look at the plug, make sure the inside is aligned, and you can just kind of use your hand to pinch in the I'm gonna call it the metal. Basically that's the part that's gonna go go onto your plug. So you can pinch it in so it's a little tighter, that way it has a good grip. The last thing you want is for a plug to come out while you're driving and get you stranded. So I'm gonna take off the solar panel, or actually I already have. So I use a very small charge controller. This is like a 5 amp thing. I'm never gonna reach that in my setup here. And you don't need that. That's only a 30 watt panel. And you know, I got one on the Camaro way over there, and got one on the boat battery, got one on the Volvo in the front over there. Basically, it's a great way to keep your battery topped off, or to charge it, because this battery slipped down to 12. I'm gonna have to probably find a loose ground on the truck, and it keeps the battery nicely charged so that you don't shock it with the alternator, and you also keep your alternator in better tip-top shape. Alright, let's start her up, make sure we don't have anything loose that's gonna get caught in the engine or fall down. Smells nice. Actually, that does sound nice. And this is a scan gauge. I mean, you can obviously read that, and I love it. Let's see. The fuel loop is open, obviously, because it's still cold. RPM still up. Temperature, obviously, is low. And because I got that extra rad and fan, this vehicle is terrible during winter to warm up. I've been telling myself for the longest time to switch it over to electric fans. We'll see. It's one of those extra things to do. We'll wait till that closes. Ignition. It's about where I want it to be. I did retune this motor for higher octane, for, believe it or not, 91 octane. And I did get a little performance boost, and in doing so I had to advance my ignition. So if you're comparing this to your stock 4.3, your ignition's probably going to be lower, around 18, I think. And here it's dropping a little bit. The main thing is because it's all electronic and everything, when you get on it in your different RPMs, the ignition, it's going to advance differently. Alright, so we've been idling for about 6-7 minutes, and the loop has finally closed. And it runs nice and smooth. That little sucking noise you hear is from the so-called cold air intake. I changed the box filter to a cone filter. It's from Volant. I don't know if you'll be able to find it anymore. Canon, I don't know if they make one for this vehicle. But anyways, I did get an improvement when I did that, and I really enjoy it. So the vehicle's due for oil. Once I change that, it will be running even smoother. And yeah, unfortunately I am leaking, so it's going to be a head gasket somewhere. I'll change that one day as well. My odometer is showing about 40 to 50,000 kms less. I have to double check my paperwork. There was a while when I was playing with my cluster and readjusting everything. Yeah, I left it not working for about 2 years. Yeah, if you have any questions, please ask below, because I'll be more than happy to answer them and help you along with your maintenance, and to put some money back in your pocket rather than paying someone to do the work for you, because this is a very simple tune-up job. Thanks for watching. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and it's informative. Again, if you have any questions, please post below. I will answer them. And if I don't have the answers, I'm going to tell you no, because I don't want to screw you over. Of course, also if you like this video, please subscribe. I usually don't ask for subscribers, but now with the way that YouTube AdSense works, I'm going to ask for subscribers. And again, because this vehicle, I plan to keep it, there'll be more videos to come as things go on it. I get more than 80,000 hours per year on my channel, but I've never asked for subscribers, and that's why I don't have my AdSense anymore. And if you can, just subscribe, because it helps me out a little bit. $1 here, $1 there. It'll help pay for diapers or anything else like that. Heck, even my car parts. But, you know, it doesn't pay a lot, but again, a little bit helps. Yeah, have yourself a nice day. Ciao.